Last week we finished up making these feet for our Carnival ride jack stands. Now I need to make some custom cribbing blocks that'll work with the unique shape of this part. To do that, we've got to start by chopping up a bunch of wood. My goal here is to shift this restoration project into high gear for the next few months. I really want to get this Carnival ride restored before my grandkids are too old to enjoy it. My oldest turned 8 on his last birthday and is almost too big for it, and the other two are catching up fast. I'm going to try to get out a video on a weekly basis. I don't know if that's going to work, but it is the goal. Alright, that's everything. I'll get a coat of paint on these. Might have trouble covering that. That end grain sure sucks up the paint. For stuff like this where the surface finish isn't super critical, I think it's just a whole lot smarter to use a cheap chip brush and throw it away than to use an expensive brush and then spend a ton of money on thinner or mineral spirits or whatever to try to clean the brush out. It always seemed to me if you actually wanted to get a brush super clean, you probably had to spend more on paint thinner than the brush was actually worth. My only concern is this yellow. I wanted it to be kind of bright so you wouldn't trip over them, but I fear they're going to draw bees. Yellow always seems to draw bees. Well, I think that's good enough for now. Unfortunately, we can't do anything for probably another 24 hours while this dries. So we need to recess these in here. First thing I need to do is find the center where this is actually going to go. Looks like 5 5/8. I need to stop using that edge. I need to get rid of that tape measure. It is not good. So that's going to be 2 3/4. So that's our center point. We're going to drill a hole here to use as a pilot hole, and then we're going to make a routing pattern using that pilot hole as our start. I need to replace this tape measure. So I'm going to put a 1/4 inch hole right through there. That knot is making us go crooked. That's going to be a problem. Let's do it again with one that doesn't have a knot. It's 2 3/4. I think this 30-foot measure works. No, it is off also. This is out of calibration. That hook is bent too much. We should be measuring 12 1/2. We're a light 16th over. Anyways, it's 12 1/2. So it's going to be 6 1/4. Now we need to make a routing jig. Use this piece of plywood here. I'm going to line this edge up with the plywood, and then I'm going to put some rails in here of some sort. Don't know what I have. I got these pieces here. We want this edge to be flush because we're always going to line that up. Carry this hole through our plywood. Now we can get rid of this. So that's our first pattern. So this will go in here. Okay, so I messed this up. We've got this pattern. I put my piece of wood back in there, and I marked where the hole location would be, and it's not really centered on that board properly, and I know why it happened. When I first drilled my center hole in this 2x6, I went over to my drawer and I got out a hole saw and I measured the center drill, and it was a 1/4 inch. So I drilled this with a 1/4 inch drill bit. But then when I went to this hole saw that I was actually going to use, it's a much smaller drill bit, and I think that was able to move around. So when I put the hole in the piece of plywood, it's no longer exactly on center. So I'm going to fix this. It's not going to be hard to fix. I just need to reverse the process, and you'll see what I mean. So to fix this, we're going to grab a new 2x6, and we're going to do this in the opposite manner. That one will work. I'm going to find the center on this board, and I'm going to drill it with the appropriate size drill bit here. That's step 1. That's like 190. We're going to try a number 12. Now I got to take these back off. And we're going to put this under here. We're going to line this up. Now we'll put this back on. Let's clean up some of the mess. These are kind of cool. I got these in an auction lot. So now we should be centered. Tidy it up here a little bit. I need to know if I have a router bit that'll do what I need it to do. That'll be all right for the 4-inch. That guy there should get me to my full depth. So between these 2 router bits, we ought to be able to do the job. So this longer bit, we'll whip that around in there, and that'll make a depression for this. And then we have to redo this whole process, making a bigger hole, which is what this hole saw is for. And then we'll use this smaller router bit to do that one. But I am not going to do this today because this is going to make a huge mess in my shop. So I'm going to wait till tomorrow afternoon when I can do this outside. Suppose we should get out the old router and see if it's any good. The old standby. Big boat anchor of a router. Need to do the big one first. There it goes. There's our guard. So we can adjust this to 0. Tighten this. I need to put a screw in here to hold that 2x6 so it doesn't slide back and forth. And of course I've already made a much bigger mess than I want it to. Wasn't going to do this inside. So I said I was getting rid of these tape measures, and I absolutely meant it. They are not calibrated properly, and they just seem to cause me problems. So we're going to replace them. So to replace those Stanley tape measures, I went out and I got 3 tape measures from FastCap, and these are not sponsored. I paid for these directly. First off, we have the lefty-righty, which can be read in either direction from either side, so that's kind of cool. These are pretty cool. They have a lot of interesting features. You got a spot on here where you can write notes to yourself. So if you measure something, let's say, it's 48 1/4, you can write it down on here. So by the time you get to the saw, you don't forget about it. I also picked up the metric and imperial. So we've got centimeters on one side and inches on the other. And another feature of this is you've got the lock up here. Pretty much like every tape measure, but you also have an additional lock down here on the bottom. So it's just kind of a quick lock. That's kind of cool. And then the final one I picked up was the story pole, which gives you a spot right here on the bottom where you can make tick marks for measuring. It also has a built-in pencil sharpener right there. Now I did take off the belt loops. They did come with those, but I rarely would put this on a belt. I rarely wear a belt. And also, they fit in this little 3D printed rack I made better. Again, not sponsored, but I will leave links down below in case you want to pick up some of these for yourself.
The following day.
Okay, now we need to redo this for the 4-inch. now we'll take a transfer punch. That's much less painful than ripping my wrists off. Okay, now we need to change out to our shorter router bit. Should center up over this. I think that's pretty good. Of course, now I need to figure out how to get it out of there. But that's a future me problem. These can all be assembled now and then painted. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but these 2x4s have a slight taper to them. So before I cut them, I figured out which way I could lay them so that the tapers would cancel each other out. So that's why they're numbered. So that they will, as long as we preserve this numbering and you put the numbered ends together, they should cancel each other out. But we got one more thing we need to do before I can do this. This needs to be drilled. I'm trying to move too fast here. I'm forgetting some stuff. This is great and all, but one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to insert this webbing to make a loop in here to make it easier to carry. So the idea was this was going to get inserted in here. But in order to do that, I think I need to make a little recess. I'm not 100% sure. We're going to take this apart and try it, see how big of a gap it leaves. If it leaves too big of a gap, then we'll have to route out just a real shallow pocket to put this in. So now, okay, just a slight regrouping here. I've made another pattern so we can make a little notch here so that we have a place to tuck our strap in. That way it'll stay below the surface and we'll be able to stack these without them separating. So now I just got to go through and do 8 of these, I think, with this little notch. Okay, I'm probably not going to wait until this completely dries because I want to get this show on the road, and I don't think it'll matter if the webbing is sitting in some wet paint. It'll just help stick it down better. Eventually it'll cure. I want to go ahead and cut all of this webbing to length. I need 4 pieces 18 inches long. I'm going to use a soldering iron. I've got this Weller tip, and it's not actually meant for this soldering gun, but I think we can probably modify it. Bend these straight first off. Get rid of those. See if we can make this one work. It's a little more straighter. Okay, I don't see any reason why that won't work, unless it's a resistance thing or something. Yeah, that worked. Okay, now they have to be oversized for the T-nuts to fit in from the other side. Let's give this thing a coat of paint. Alright, I think it's time to stop messing with it and let it sit for the night. So that brings this part of the project to a close. I need to modify the corner gussets on the ride trailer to mount the new jack stands, but then we'll be able to give these a try. If you'd like to help support this project, consider joining us over on Patreon. And to follow along each step of the way, click that link to the left and come along for the ride.